Jason walked out of the video store. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed the homeless man who he thought had been following him. His heart started thumping very fast, but it was broad daylight, and there were several dozen other people on the street. Even though it was not the way he wanted to go, Jason turned away from the homeless man and started walking very fast. After a block, he turned and looked again. The homeless man was nowhere to be seen. With a sigh of relief, Jason turned towards home. His mom was already expecting him to come home right after the school, and stopping in the video store to return the movie she didn't know he had rented was not a fact of which he wanted her to become aware. A couple of blocks later, he turned a corner and bumped into the same homeless man, almost knocking him down. Shocked into stillness, Jason looked into the unshaven, dirty, and oddly smiling face. A bruised and calloused hand reached out towards him, holding something. "A gift," the homeless man said in a surprising, melodious voice. Without thinking, Jason looked down at the hand. In it was a deck of cards, still in its cellophane wrapper. The picture on the cover grabbed his attention. It looked like a still out of the movie he had just returned to the video store, the movie called Matrix. Jason looked closer. He couldn't help himself. The picture looked like a close-up of Neo, the Keanu Reeves character who was being handed a book by the girl who had the white rabbit tattooed on her shoulder. This was not a scene from the movie. Jason leaned even closer and could see that the book was familiar. It was Neil Stephenson's novel, Cryptonomicon. A gasp sharply escaped, and his mouth became suddenly very dry. He looked up at the face of the homeless man again. He looked closer, trying to see past his own prejudices. The face was warm and friendly, the eyes kind and somehow ancient, perhaps even wise. Again, the homeless man spoke. "A gift. It is yours, Jason. Take it." With the mention of his name, Jason was again very fearful, but somehow also enchanted. He reached out and grabbed the deck of cards, and mumbling a bare thank you, stepped around the homeless man and started running home. 10 minutes later, he was alone in his room. He opened his own well-read copy of Cryptonomicon. To the back pages were the encryption system called Solitaire, using a deck of cards, was described and explained. He read it 3 times and realized that he had to go slow, to not assume things, and to be very careful. He opened the deck of cards and carefully wrote down the sequence in which they were arranged, without disturbing the order. They were not organized in the usual way. A new deck was organized, separated into suits and in numerical order. Once the order was written down on a page of unlined paper, he returned the cards to their box. Now he needed to think. He turned on his computer and went out on the net looking for an MP3 file of the Jefferson Airplane song, White Rabbit. After it was loaded into his system, he set to playing it over and over in the background while he studied the order of the cards written on the page. About the 3rd time around, when Grace was singing the line about the Red Queen, he noticed something almost in the middle of the order of the cards. The 2 red queens of the deck bracketed a series of number cards, with no face cards mixed in. Not only that, but the number sequence was itself unusual. There would be 2 number cards, then a 10, then 3 other number cards, and then a 10, and so forth. So that if one took the 10 and saw it as a 1 and a 0, as a binary code break in the numbers, then what one had was 1 2-digit number, and then 3 3-digit numbers, broken by dots, like an internet domain address. Jason's mouth dropped open. He picked up a virtual console window in his Linux operating system. He typed, quote-unquote, NS lookup, and then the numbers from the deck of cards. His computer displayed a few lines of information, and the last one, the domain name this number was associated with him, made him draw a sudden deep breath. It said, quote-unquote, hellojason.com. His hands suddenly became very sweaty, and he dried them quickly on his jeans before he went again to his browser, Galleon, and then out on the net again to the actual website. Again a shock. This one no less powerful than the preceding ones. The page was small and loaded quickly. It said, hello, Jason. Please be careful as soon as you log off this page and everything will disappear. This page is already erased from the server. It was on right after you loaded it on your browser, and no one will even know it has been here. Below is a download file link, which file will also erase as soon as you take it. The file is virus-free and contains a computer program for using the solitary encryption system without the laborious process of doing it by hand. The example in Cryptomonicon has a typo in it, so this program will be better. By the way, welcome to Hacker Paradise. The message was signed, quote-unquote, the Dreadlords of Cyberspace, the name of the most notorious yet remarkable white knight hacker group known. They were the Robin Hoods of the Internet, hacking into corporate and government data banks, and then publishing very embarrassing information all over the Internet. Within the last year, 2 major corporations have been forced into bankruptcy, and their executives and boards of directors indicted because of serious environmental crimes. More than one government bureaucrat had been forced to resign, including one senator because of facts discovered and published by the Dreadlords. Needless to say, without hesitation, Jason downloaded the solitaire encryption program file. Jason sat back and looked over the email. He was about to take a very big step, and he knew he wanted to think about it carefully. This didn't seem like a time to forget he was only 16. There had been a lot of activity on the Hacker Bulletin board he usually frequented. Everybody was concerned about the collapse. Some people were bragging about all kinds of destructive things they were doing or planning to do, all kinds of cracking. But Jason wanted only to be a true white knight hacker. His idea was free information, not playing games in other people's computer systems. But with this email, he was going to commit himself to join a group, a renewal group with very specific agendas about electronic freedom. It was weird to think of the Dreadlords of Cyberspace as a renewal group, but this was how they thought of themselves. They had principles, and you committed yourself to these principles if you joined. Plus, if you joined, they would know who you are. Amongst themselves, they shared information, no hiding behind handles and anonymous emailers. With the solitaire encryption system, no one would know anything, not even the infamous NSA, the National Security Agent. Now he was going to participate and post something in dozens of places. Along with the other Dreadlords, he would be invading systems and web pages and posting a statement about a new kind of law, an information bill of rights. He was fascinated with the Bill of Information Rights. Especially, something about these Bill of Information Rights touched a place inside him that felt deeply. He could almost see it, that on the other side of the collapse, this addition to the Bill of Rights was crucial to the future. It stated, it is the right of every citizen to sufficient information to be able to make informed decisions. It is the right of every citizen to a sphere of informational privacy, inviolate from the intrusions of the state or commercial and employment interest. This sphere is to be defined by the individual citizens themselves. Citizens who widely construct their sphere of privacy rights must suspect the normal consequences that flow from such an act, such as limitations on possible forms of employment. No government or private institution may withhold information needed by a free citizenry for the exercise of its duties. The Congress shall pass laws mandating appropriate and severe punishment for the violation of this right. Likewise, the Congress shall make laws mandating appropriate and severe punishment for a violation of this right of privacy. When any citizen believes his or her information rights have been violated, the courts must make inquiry without cost to the citizen. In order to not overburden the courts, the Office of the Informational Ombudsman will be created by the Congress, which will mediate all preliminary inquiries into requests and violations that rise from the exercise of these rights. Where a conflict arises between the right of privacy and the right to information, the courts will seek the balancing principle in the Platonic ideal of the good. For the purposes of this Bill of Information Rights, no non-living entity, such as a corporation or other institution or organization, shall be deemed a person or a citizen. So, Jason hit the enter button, pushing enter, giving the command that sent the email, and then waited for his assignments to come in which websites he was to work.